California's Golden Parks is made possible by Toyota, who is committed to keeping the air clean at all our beautiful parks with its hybrid Synergy drive technology. In vehicles like the innovative Prius, Highlander Hybrid, and the Camry Hybrid, lower emissions and higher gas mileage help hybrid Synergy drive vehicles create a minimal impact on the environment. So take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy another one of California's Golden Parks.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell, and here we are on this beautiful morning in our state's capital, Sacramento. Now we are here to visit Sutter's Fort State Historic Park, and this fort is truly one of the most historic places in our entire state. We're looking forward to a good day inside. I understand we're going to learn a lot in there about some of the layers of our state's history. So there's a lot to learn in there. We're going to have a lot of fun too. We're spending the day in Sutter's Fort State Historic Park, which is definitely one of California's golden parks. We have officially arrived at Sutter's Fort State Historic Park, and it was a lot of fun riding in on this old wagon, but Bob, I'm not sure exactly why you had us arrive this way.
Well, traditionally, that's how you would have come to Sutter's Fort. Now, a lot of people know of Sutter's Fort because of John Sutter, and in 1839 he built this place, but it really only lasted till about 1850.
What do you mean it only lasted?
Well, what you're looking at, the outside walls, is a reconstruction done in the 1890s. There is one original portion of the fort, and we're going to take you in there later. But by the 1850s, Sutter had gone, the gold rush had started to run its course, and there really was other uses for the fort. It started out being used as a hospital, and then kind of a manufacturing and like a large mall, you might say. But even after that point, people started taking the walls apart to fill in streets or to build the city of Sacramento.
So the original fort disappeared.
It disappeared almost entirely. All that was left was the central building out here in the middle of nowhere. The native sons of the Golden West got together in 1890 and decided to purchase the fort. And the reason they wanted to buy it was because they felt that there was a need for an overland pioneer monument. A monument to all those pioneers who came west by wagon just before the gold rush, just like you arrived here today.
Ah, that's the tie-in. We were overland pioneers today. So that's the symbolism of arriving by wagon. We are representing all the pioneers who came to California overland.
Overland by wagon, and this place was where you were coming to. Getting to Sutter's was your goal.
Okay, the adventure begins as the wagon pulls out. Bob, you and I are here in front of the fort gates. I assume we're going inside.
Oh, you bet we're going to go inside.
How do we get inside?
Oh, well, there's a secret password. Open the gate!
Open the gate! And here goes the gate. And this, in those days, was a big deal for the gate to open.
Very big deal. You were being welcomed inside the sanctuary, you might say.
And look at this. We are being welcomed. Now, what is this all about?
Well, of course, there was no television in those days, unfortunately. You had to make your own music, your own entertainment. People got pretty good on that long 5-month journey all the way out here by wagon. Once they got here, they would kind of combine up and play music at night. For entertainment. Don't forget, there was nothing out here but the fort.
So these musical instruments would have been considered very valuable things to bring along on a trip.
Very valuable, and they would have been about the last thing you abandoned because you needed some sort of entertainment while you were coming across the plains and over the Rockies.
Of course, one of the musical instruments is a washboard, so that did double duty.
Dual purpose, yes.
Now, you've got the whole park set up today. Is this a special day?
Yeah, this is a historic demonstration day, kind of a hands-on history day, we call it. and the volunteers are here helping people to learn about what the material culture was like of the 1840s. And of course, all of their information comes from sources that were contained either in first-hand accounts here kept in the fort, or first-hand accounts about the fort in other libraries and repositories.
Okay, from music to, this is a demonstration, a setup of what, Bob?
Life on the Overland Trail. Don't forget, this is how you got to Sutter's back in the 1840s. And this is a replica encampment so that when people come in here, they can see what life was like along the trail. What did you pack? Why did you pack it? Why was it important? And what were some of the things that you packed that maybe you shouldn't have?
All right, let's talk to some of these guys. Fellas, have you all just arrived on the Overland Trail?
Yes, we just my wife and I came down from Oregon down.
We
went to Oregon first.
I came across on the main trail from Kentucky.
Well, tell us a little bit about what we've got set up here, fellas.
Well, this is our wagon from coming across the Sierras and, well, all across the desert, and pretty typical of what people would have.
What's this underneath here? I thought you slept in the wagon.
Oh, we didn't want to unload the wagon every night, so we throw
you slept under the wagon. And you had, well, you've got a powder.
Got a big powder horn and my shot bag and my musket for the trail.
And you slept with those right by your...
By my side in case we had to defend ourselves.
Is this your wife over here?
It is.
She's talking
lady over there with the straw hat and apron on.
Howdy.
Hi, how are you?
Excuse me for just a minute, but you just arrived. Tell us what the trip was like and what you brought with you.
It was hard. We left most of the things we brought on the side of the trail. And now we're here. We're trying to negotiate with the captain for some land.
What is all this over here? Now, did you bring all this?
I have to tell you, my husband didn't want us to leave an important thing. This is our coffee grinder. I had to leave my grandmother's good dishes, but we were not going to leave the coffee grinder.
Oh my gosh! What is going on here?
Well, we're showing the reasons that we dress the way we do, because depending upon what the circumstances are, we were trying to stay cool and also trying to save our laundry skills.
That would have been this stiff?
So yeah, this is actually stiffened with cornstarch, or well, actually this one is cornstarch, and so it is basically starch so that it keeps the dress away from your body, which allows airflow to come up and cool you. The bottom layer she's wearing is a chemise. It would be wet with sweat, so it would act like a, you know, kind of a cooler.
How does that feel?
Weird.
It kind of does feel weird too. And listen to this noise.
And that was thought to be quite sexy, that rustle. That was the rustle of women's skirts. So, cornstarch, very sexy. Nothing sexier.
So there she is, all dressed up, surrounded by her friends, and everybody is in amazement, aren't they?
It's pretty amazing when they think of what they had to wear and how they had to wear it. But it all works.
Well, it's a very practical demonstration because lots of times you don't think about what people were wearing.
No, you don't. You only equate to today.
Boy, you're getting ready to do something over here. What are we doing right here?
We're getting ready to put the bread in the oven.
Wait a minute, hold on a minute. Let's see what that bread looks like. So this is bread that you've actually...
The missus has made it up inside there. It takes about a 3-hour process.
Oh, wow, look at this.
Ladies mixed it up.
So you've done all of this?
Yes.
By hand?
Yes.
Was that hard to do?
No, it's not, and it's very edible.
Well, let's put it in here and see. Because this is... Now, how have you got this oven heated up? What's the deal here on the oven?
Well, I had a fire going in there all morning. Takes about 2.5 to 3 hours to get the oven hot enough to bake with it. You actually have to overheat the oven and then let it cool to the right temperature. That's what we've been waiting for, is to get to the right temperature.
Would they have had an oven like this in the fort?
They had a beehive oven, you know, very similar to this. They probably
like
had 2 of them, you know, around the fort.
All right, she's waiting to put her bread in there too. I guess there's a window of opportunity when you gotta get it in and get it started cooking.
Right.
Now do we just, oh boy, you're cooking for the whole fort.
Yes.
Is this the way it would have been done? They would have cooked bread for the whole fort at the same time?
Well, what we bake today, Captain Sutter would put it in the trade store for the next day, and then people that wanted to buy bread could bring their tokens and
Should
purchase
we close
bread.
that up?
Now we'll seal it up. Okay, so it gets a little moisture, and we're baking right now.
Now, how long is it going to take to bake that bread?
It'll take us about 30 minutes.
That's it?
That's it.
So it's getting hot in there.
Oh yeah, it's about 400, 450 degrees in there right now.
They're waving and smiling now, but that could change very quickly, couldn't it?
Yes, it could.
What are we looking at here?
We are getting ready to do a pioneer amputation.
A pioneer amputation. Are you ready? Yeah. What are we going to do? Amputate your arm?
Yeah.
And are you a doctor?
In the 1840s, I would not have been a doctor. I might have been a midwife, or I might have been a family member of a doctor, but women were not doctors yet in this time period.
So let's talk about this amputation, and don't worry, we're not going to show anything too graphic here. What is this?
That is a bone saw.
This is what you...
I would cut through the bones with that if I'm going to amputate arm or a leg with that size, finger or toe with that size, so that you have the right size tool for the job.
And this looks very medieval.
Doesn't it just? It is a flesh knife. The better thing to do for my patient, rather than start with a saw, is to cut through the soft tissue first. Less pain and trauma for the patient.
This is amazing. And any anesthesia, any...
Sadly, no. There's no way to put her to sleep. Now, what I can give her is laudanum, if I have any in stock.
What is that?
Laudanum is like morphine. It's an opiate. So that's going to dope her up a little bit, but it won't completely take the pain away.
She could just bite on a piece of...
I could give her a piece of leather or a bullet to bite on, and I'll have strong people holding her down.
Is that where the expression bite the bullet came from?
Absolutely.
Wow, do you want leather or a bullet?
I don't know.
Wait a minute, we got to come back over here to this wagon. I missed this the first time. What are you holding in your hand?
You've heard of buffalo chips, and we're not talking potato chips now. This is
cow manure.
It is. These actually come from a bison ranch up Highway 50, but this is exactly what people use to cook with. And you read the old journals, and it was either a green sage or this. Most of the women preferred this because it did not smoke. One woman has a great quote about why I think that they rival my grandfather's hickory smoke. You know,
so they cooked with cow manure.
If you go to Ireland and they cook with a peat moss, it's like this. And I've actually cooked with a Dutch oven. Like I have a spice cake I'm going to cook a little bit later, but I will use wood because I don't want to use up my buffalo chips.
Here comes the bread, the cooked bread, and look at this. It's going right into your apron.
Yes, that's
now,
how they
is
would do
that
it.
the way the women would have gotten the bread?
Yes, because it's too hot to touch with your hands. So.
Wow.
And you can see how dirty my apron is.
That comes from the bottom of the bread.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Oh boy, that is hot.
Yes.
And wait a minute. What's this? You snuck something else in here for us.
These are sticky buns,
Now,
cinnamon rolls.
They wouldn't have made those back then.
Yes, they would have. If Captain Sutter had guests coming, and he would ration us out extra sugar and spices, because spices and sugar is very expensive, see.
They
so we
would
only
have
got to
made sticky buns back then?
They would have made them in this oven.
I thought we might find you in here. Your name is?
I'm Captain Sutter.
You're playing Captain Sutter. You are representing Captain Sutter. Was it pronounced Sutter?
Sutter is the correct pronunciation. Americans say Sutter, but the Swiss say Sutter.
Really? And he was Swiss?
Yes, he was.
All right, I'm American, so I'm going to say Sutter.
That's correct.
This was literally Sutter's office in the fort.
This is his office where he ran the business of the farm because he's here as a farmer.
So this was also, though, wasn't it, the office where something very historic happened right here on this desk?
Absolutely. John Marshall brought gold down from Coloma to have it analyzed. When he brought it in here in a rainstorm, they locked up the doors. The captain broke out the encyclopedia, looked up how to test for gold, and they did a few tests, used aquafortes, nitric acid. Didn't destroy it. Put it on a set of scales, put silver on one side, gold on the other, until they balanced. Then you set them in a bucket of water, and the gold will drop, specific gravity.
So all of that happened right here. This is where the confirmation took place that gold had indeed been found here in California.
That's correct. 22 karat gold. Test is as good today as it was then.
This is probably as historic a room as any place in the entire state of California, because this is the original room.
The original room, the original building. This is where modern California starts, in this building.
Right in this room. Now, this is the last remaining original building in the fort. This is the building where we just met John Sutter.
Correct.
Up in his office. This building is original, and it's also tells a story about the second chapter in this fort after it was rebuilt in the late 1800s.
Correct. The reconstruction occurred in the 1890s, and it was turned over to the state in about 1907. During the time period that we're talking about, the pioneers, those young, healthy pioneers that have brought their young children to California in 1849 and 50 by wagon, are now quite old. 50, 60 years has passed. The children are now getting older, and if they remember coming to Sutter's Fort, it was as a little kid. But now they're in their 80s, and they have all of the things that mom and dad have left behind, or in some cases, grandma and grandpa. And they don't want these things to go to waste. They don't want the memories of the overland pioneer journey to be lost. So by 1926, there's a curator here at the fort named Harry Peterson, and Harry goes on a speaking tour. He meets some of these children and some of these pioneers, and he says this is the place to take those memories. We will preserve them forever. And so this now, the next chapter of the fort story is open. The collection facility, it becomes the repository for all of those memories, all of those artifacts that stir childhood memories of their visit here to the fort. And we've been protecting them ever since.
They are protected inside this building.
Inside the oldest portion of the fort section that John Sutter would have actually trod, that if you go up and touch your hand to the wall, you would be touching what John Sutter knew and what those pioneers knew. And a section of that building actually holds those collections, those memories forever.
All right, this is a real adventure. We are coming inside the original building here at Sutter's Fort. We're hooking up with Kristen, who is the curator here. We've heard from Bob outside the building about this collection of artifacts that are housed here in Sutter's Fort. And obviously, we're looking at some of them right now. What is this all about?
This shirt belonged to a man who came to the fort in the early 1840s, and he served as a trapper and a clerk for Sutter. His name was P.B. Redding, and we actually have a picture of him down here.
So this is Mr. Redding.
Right.
And what is this over here?
That was something very important that he needed when he came to California in the 1840s. He needed a passport.
A passport?
Right. He needed a passport because California wasn't part of the United States. He was going into Mexico.
Wow. Nobody, see, people don't think about this.
Right.
And look at this jacket. This is 100 and almost 70 years old.
Right, and it's in very good shape, and it could be because it stayed with his family until it came to be part of our collection.
This is made out of?
It's buckskin.
Wow. All right, now right behind us, that's Captain Sutter. Sutter.
Right, exactly.
You call him Sutter?
Well, I say Sutter.
It's Sutter.
I go on with his American name.
All right, so what have we got here? Because these are Sutter artifacts.
Precisely. We have many things from Sutter himself and his time here at the fort. And we have some very important items. First, I'd like to show you some of his jewelry that he wore. We think we're in California where it's the Wild West and people are rugged, but actually Sutter was a gentleman, and so he had many wonderful things that he wore. So these are some of the items that he had.
These are his cufflinks and...
It's a scarf pin.
Scarf pin. What is this?
This is a very unassuming but important object. It's a lamp, And it was a lamp that was sitting in Sutter's private office when Marshall came in January of 1848 to show him the gold that he had found.
Now, how do we know that was on his desk in 1848?
That's a good question. How do we know how any of this comes to us? When we take in an item to the collection, we take the history that the person who's bringing it to us has. And this was given to us by a good friend of Sutter's. And she had it in her collection and gave it to us. So it's the oral history that came with it.
And these?
These are actually reproduction brands that we know what they should look like because we have the original brand book.
The brand book?
Right. Sutter, as an agent of, from the government of Mexico, was in charge of making sure that people's property was marked. And so he would draw what their brand would look like, and also they cut the ears on the cows. So there's a picture of what the cow would look like.
So this is Sutter's handwriting.
It is.
17th of November, 1840.
45. It's a messy 5. He didn't do so well on his 5.
Wow. And all of this has been donated or bought by the state, donated by the family,
right,
to be a part of this collection here at Sutter's Fort.
Right, so we can better tell the story of living here in 1840s.
This is an interesting juxtaposition between the old stuff and the computers here.
Right, these objects wouldn't know each other if they could talk.
What are we looking at here? I have a feeling this has to do with gold.
It sure does, and it's a gold rocker. And it was owned by someone who had a very important part in the gold rush in California.
Who was that?
James Marshall.
So this was owned by the man who discovered gold.
Exactly. And so he continued to look for gold after he found those first few flakes.
Can I touch this?
If you put gloves on, I'd let you touch it.
I just want to, you want to touch something like this.
Exactly, because you're getting that much closer to the history.
How do we know that this belonged to James Marshall?
Well, we have a big collection of Marshall's objects because after he died, one of his neighbors collected his things, and she created a James Marshall Pioneer Museum in Kelsey, California. And so when her museum sort of got run down, she gave that entire collection to Sutter's Fort. So we have a lot of Marshall things.
Isn't it wonderful that you've acquired these things? Who would have known what would have happened to them if they weren't here in this collection?
Right, we're very lucky.
And we're standing in front of here.
These are more Marshall items. Marshall was a carpenter by trade, and so this is a jack plane that's used for leveling and creating a nice surface on wood. And then he was also a blacksmith. So this is a shovel that he made and used here at the fort.
Before we leave this room, I have to touch this. I've got my glove on. This cradle, it's called a gold cradle rocker.
Right.
It's what they would have used to search for gold in the creeks.
Right.
And this is the one that Marshall used.
Yes.
So I'm going to touch it. I got my glove on. You wouldn't let me.
I wouldn't let you touch it without that glove.
Wow. It really is humbling.
It is. Yeah.
It really is.
Not only do you get to experience history, now you get to touch history today.
Yeah. Okay, now we have come to this wonderful museum here at Sutter's Fort to look at what has to be the most famous, the most renowned, the most, well, people come here from all over the world to look at this thing. This is the most prominent artifact, if not in the entire state parks collection, certainly the collection here at Sutter's Fort. What are we looking at right in this case, Kristen?
Right in here is the tiny doll that Patty Reed carried with her on the Donner Party trip to California, where they got stuck in the mountains, and she had pretty much left everything behind except she kept this little doll with her.
So this is the original doll that little Patty Reed, who was a member of the Donner Party, had with her that long, hard winter when they were trapped in the snow.
Right, she was only 8 years old, and this is one of the few belongings that she got to keep with her.
Now, why is this little doll from the Donner Party here at Sutter's Fort?
Well, it's a great story. Patty Reed was famous for being part of the Donner Party, and she kept that with her whole life. She gave talks and she kept letters, and she collected things relating to the Donner Party, and she kept that collection with her and then gave it to her daughter to donate to Sutter's Fort at the centennial of the Donner Party entrapment.
Boy, what a day we have had here at Sutter's Fort. And Bob, I think what I've learned more than anything else on this particular adventure is that this fort, which was originally built in the 1830s, it basically disintegrated, fell apart by the 1880s. If it hadn't been for the Sons of the Golden West restoring this fort, it wouldn't even be here today.
It wouldn't have been. It was an adobe structure. It would have just melted back into the soil from whence it came. In 1888, when they found the ruins of the fort and felt that it could be a symbol of overland pioneers and reconstructed the buildings, they had little idea what it would become. They knew they wanted it to be a monument. They knew they wanted it to represent the overland pioneers, the people that came in wagons, just like you arrived today. Its unintended legacy became that those pioneers in their quite elderly years, or in fact their children's elderly years, were looking for a place to keep all those memories alive. And this building became the repository for those memories. Some of the most amazing things in California history are housed within the fort, within the historic part of the fort, right where they would have come the first time.
Yeah, right in that building.
Right in that building, inside the building, just like they arrived the first time. And now our duty is to protect them for perpetuity, forever. Future generations forever.
Well, congratulations to you and all the other park employees, to the docents, to the living history people. This is always so much fun to come here to Sutter's Fort. This place has so many layers of history to it. And we got to thank the Sons of the Golden West once again, because they're the ones who reconstructed this fort and saved it for us. These memories, these wonderful memories, and this wonderful piece of California's history, which is very much one of California's golden parks. Sutter's Fort State Historic Park.
California, here I come, right back where I started from. He's growing, the flowers bloom in the spring. He's morning, and dawning, the birds sing every tree. The sun kisses, says don't be late. That's why I can hardly wait. Open up that golden gate, California, here I come.
Well, I sure hope you enjoyed our visit to historic Sutter's Fort in Sacramento. It's well worth a visit. And if you'd like to go on this adventure again, share it with family or friends, or more importantly, donate a copy to your local school or library. It's available on video cassette and on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.
This presentation of California's Golden Parks was made possible by Toyota, who wants you to get out and see these incredible parks for yourself. Toyota is committed to preserving their natural beauty with its hybrid synergy drive technology in vehicles like the Prius, Highlander Hybrid, and Camry Hybrid. Lower emissions and higher gas mileage help hybrid synergy drive vehicles have a minimal impact on our natural wonders. We'll see you next time on California's Golden Parks.